Now I'm going to be honest about this. I did my first film, which was called Demons in My Head, which was pretty much an earlier incarnation of March of the Nephilim. I then went on to do a second film called To Become One, and then I decided it was time to do the big epic Neil Johnson film that I've always wanted to do and supposed to be doing. And that was called Battle Space. It was a big science fiction epic film, which I guess touched again upon the mythology of the Nephilim and the Watchers, as recorded in the Bible. I looked at it and I thought, well, my first film kind of touches on that very slightly, but I really want to change it now and kind of bring it all into one big universe and bring it into the entire mythos of what I'm doing. So I looked at Demons in My Head and I realized, yeah, okay, I need to make a few changes to this. I want to update the effects. I want to add a couple of scenes and really bring it under the umbrella of, the Neil Johnson universe. And that's kind of where it came from. So it really isn't the same film as Demons in My Head. It is a different film, clearly. But it contains, 70% of the elements of Demons in My Head. At the same time, high definition technology came out, so we blew it all up to high definition, changed a few things around, added some effects, did some color grading. At that point then, once I kind of started working on this, I realized I had to write the entire history of the universe that I'm playing with. I sat down and just mapped it all out, and that's how we sort of managed to build it up. So the idea is if you watch March of the Nephilim, then you watch Bipolar Armageddon, and then you watch Battle Space. And then you watch the next films after that are going to be made soon. It'll all tell one big story, and it's a story of humanity. It's from my perspective, my world, my universe, but that's the whole point of making films. The original shoot was done in Australia, in a house that I owned. The reason I did it that way, of course, it was a budgetary reason. We didn't have a huge budget. I think it was about $240,000 in total, which was something. I mean, this was pre-digital era, of course, people were not doing digital films, the big revolution hadn't started, so, that was considered a very small budget. We had the latest and first digital camera. You had small problems like realizing, okay, we're now dealing with a widescreen format. Now I understand why people build sets, because you need to get the camera back a little bit. The film has an almost claustrophobic feel because you couldn't get back any further. We had a small crew, but a very good crew. Lisa Jacob, I remember, was the key makeup artist, and she was responsible for all the makeup effects and everything else. It's interesting, she had a good makeup staff under her, and some of her makeup people went on to work on Lord of the Rings. You see a distinct similarity between the Nephilim and the Orcs. Similar makeup crew. I mean, I'm not saying it was a rip-off or anything, it's just kind of cool to see a similar style sort of carrying through. It was really hot when we were filming, it was so hot. I remember we had this big air conditioner that would blow into the room, then we turn it off and we actually start filming, and I remember people passing out. It was a really strange time, and to cap it off, I decided I'd do my first cameo in a film.
Fuck, that hurt.
I guess somebody had to play the demon, and the other guy we had lined up to do the demon originally, he had a car accident and was thrown in the hospital. So, you could say the film was cursed from day one. First day of shooting was really strange. I remember, get a phone call, this guy's in hospital, he can't be the demon. Great, no problem, we can fix it, I'll be the demon. Then I get a phone call from the girl playing Larissa, the original person playing Larissa, and she says, oh, I don't really want to do the film because it has a sex scene and my boyfriend's going to be offended and we're going to have an argument and we're going to split up over this. So, of course, nice of this girl to tell me, on the day of shooting, not, a couple of weeks before. So luckily I was able to talk to Amber Allen, who was playing the fantasy woman, and she did a double role, which kind of worked in nicely.
Just pull the sheets up right out here. Sorry guys, still got the sheet, just if you just...
Okay.
Bill's a bit of a linguist. He's had experience on many archaeological digs.
And why is Bill going door to door peddling membership for your religion?
The guy who was playing Bill, again, an interesting story. I think he had a bit of a religious side to him. He was very concerned that his children would be upset if they saw him, torn apart with his guts hanging out and everything. So he also called up on the first day of shooting and said, I cannot be in the film. So I got my props department head, who was James Dobbin, who also was an actor, and I threw him into the role and he did a great job. He is Bill, the stuttering preacher from Back of Beyond.
What was that?
I guess that was a Nephilim.
So I had to be a demon, I had no choice. You know, already I had this burden of my first film and everything else, but now I've got to act in the thing as well. So we worked out a makeup thing, and you know, in between our shooting times we did makeup tests. What I had to do was actually remove all the hair from my body, because we wanted, you know, we wanted these creatures to be strong, you know, kind of primordial.
Marcia. No.
That's all right, no.
Why am I getting it?
Nearly there, you're nearly there. Just once more, please.
Once more.
Marcia.
So we had to shave all the hair off my body, and I'm a hairy person, so I use hair removal cream, but unfortunately I got this rash and my whole body sort of broke out and didn't look very good. You know, we put the latex on my skin, we glued this on, we peeled it off, and yeah, it seemed to look pretty good. It took about 6 hours to glue this latex onto my body. Of course, a rash started, you know, which wasn't cool. After I saw a dermatologist, they said, look, just, you know, go to the beach and go into the salt water, it'll help dissolve the latex. I went to a secluded beach, which is on the Gold Coast in Australia, and I didn't know this at the time, but it's the gay beach. Now, by gay beach, I mean have these guys who hang around the car park and watch other men and, you know, try and proposition them. So it's not a friendly gay beach, it's kind of the creepy gay side of things. So I'm laying in the sand dunes, and every 5 minutes some guy would come out of the bushes and just check me out, you know, because I virtually am naked at this point. I just had a G-string on because my whole body was rashed badly, so I had to get as much of my skin exposed to the sun as possible. This guy would come out of the bushes and, you know, come and proposition me, and then he'd just stop in his tracks and then turn around and walk away. Because I guess my body looked so disgusting, he was sort of shocked. So it was good in a way. I'm not gay, so I'm not really into that type of thing, so I didn't really want people talking to me anyway. But, you know, my skin was pretty bad. It kind of, you know, turned people off me, which was a good thing on that day.
Okay, let's do it. Turn over.
It's fantastic, Ingo. It's worth it.
Okay. Right, please.
Sure.
And action.
I offer my body to you as a living sacrifice.
Again.
I offer my body to you as a living sacrifice.
Let's do it once again.
There's no more left.
I still feel very strongly about the characters. There are, you know, I mean, people could say, yes, we see a bit of you in this character, I mean, you have to write from the heart, and you have to sort of create people from what you know. I'm really not any of these people in this film, but they're people who I guess maybe have known or you know, there's a tiny piece of me here or there. You know, it's nice to see that. Travis obviously, you know, starts out very down on himself, I guess, a little bit. It's his way of becoming a man, I guess. And of course, in the path to manhood, you have to make mistakes and you have to fuck up. So, you know, that's the path he walks. And by the end of the film, you know, he really is much more of a complete person, though still, you know, still has his faults and still has much to learn. He has developed. And of course, Regis is another one. Obviously starts out as the gay character and turns into a woman. So he has a nice little character journey. I mean, I'm not going to make a statement about every gay person wants to be a woman, of course, you know, it's just this character decided, you know, he's better served as a woman, and a blonde one with, you know, ample breasts is always a good choice. The David Walters character is very interesting. I actually did base him on a high school acquaintance who was, I guess he was a bully. More of an emotional bully, but you know, he kind of wasn't a pleasant person. His name wasn't David Walters, it was David something else. If he's watching this, he knows who I'm talking about, because I even cast a guy who looks like him. Well, Bill and Marcia, obviously they're kind of Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, the line, "I witnessed a car crash once," is obviously a play on the Jehovah's Witnesses. I used to have many of those Jehovah's Witnesses come to visit me and preach the gospel, and I would turn them away, or I'd sit there and argue with them for a couple of hours and they would leave with their faith in tatters. So they were kind of, you know, obviously inspired from that, but you know, the Marcia character is much more complex.
It's a very sweet thing to say.
run that line again.
Can Travis stop making all those water noises? I'm finding it so distracting.
We really need the shot. We really need him there.
Yeah, but I'm hearing
She was based upon a doctor I saw. I had to film like dead bodies once for some documentary, and there was this doctor, this beautiful woman, female doctor, and there she was just eating her lunch beside all the dead bodies, and it was just really a strange sight to see, and I sort of took a bit of that and made the Marcia character out of it. But of course, Marcia's destiny is written in the stars. She was meant to be the queen of the Nephilim. She was just fulfilling her role. You know, as you could see, she'd had a life, and it really hadn't had an impact on her, and she was almost directionless when the Nephilim came to her.
Well, would you like a drink? Cheers.
That was interesting.
We call him the wisest man in the universe. Well, he's actually Dr. Hatcher. Now, this guy actually appears in the second film as a much older, much later sort of incarnation of the same person. He has a little bit of an interesting flow, because he starts off kind of, you know, a bit nutty, a bit Doctor Who-ish, and brilliant actor, David Vallon. And of course, I gave him a bigger role in the second film. So if I wanted to tie the two films together, I kind of had to make it the same character, but just different incarnations. You know, in certain times in life, you are a nice, happy person, and things can happen to you and make you much more twisted and deranged. And that's what happened, you know, after spending some time with the Queen in the Nephilim homeworld and some genetic experiments, he became a bit nutty. And that's why he's appearing in Bipolar Armageddon as a completely different type of person.
Welcome to the level! Have you been a bad boy? Welcome to the lower level. Have you been a bad boy?
The guy playing the Plastic Man, originally I called him the Plastic Man because he was going to be covered in plastic, but it made too much noise, so we decided to give him a different sort of outfit. And Lisa Jacob, you know, who was obviously in charge of the makeup, did an amazing job on him. I met the actor originally. He sent me a photo of himself as Charles Manson, and he looked exactly like Charles Manson. He had the beard and the hair, and oh, this is bizarre. This guy sent me a photo of Charlie Manson. But it really was the actor, and I mean, he would just play these insane sort of roles. And the guy's an absolute genius. A really nice guy, but an absolute genius. But he really put himself into the role.
This'll be memorable!
Got a little scary with him sometimes. I mean, definitely a method actor. He was actually a vegetarian as well. We basically turned him into this demonic sort of character, and then we had him sort of rip people's guts apart and actually eat raw meat, which he did. He let the character take control of him, and he ate all this raw flesh. I mean, it was real raw meat there, and some of it wasn't very healthy. And he was like throwing this stuff down, and he just went, I wouldn't say he went too far, because I mean, he created a great character, but the character took over him. And I mean, this is the God's honest truth. You can just see the footage. He has no control over himself. The character is controlling him. And you could call this demon possession if you want. And I mean, he apparently had a very hard time dealing with this. And you know, we were scared a couple of times. You know, he had the big buzzsaw thing he holds up.
It's time for some renovations around the house, laddie!
I was terrified that he actually would, you know, drop the thing into Regis and start cutting him up. I truly was. I mean, we were on set, and I was remember grabbing it off him the moment the shot was finished.
It's time to do some renovations around the house, laddie!
He just was such an intense guy. He just couldn't help himself. So as soon as the film was finished, he just disappeared. We just couldn't contact the guy. I mean, I don't even know if he's even seen the film. But apparently, he went into a psychiatric hospital for a time because, you know, the film had such an effect on him. He, I think, went insane. Not completely insane, but he just went, whew, you know, off the planet. I mean, you don't blame him. And then the last I heard, he actually went to the middle of Australia and was living in isolation with his girlfriend in the middle of Australia with nothing else around him. The guy's a genius actor. I hope he comes back one day because I'd like to work with him again, but, you know. wow, I'll never give him that role. I'll find a nice role for him to do, I think, next time.
This will be memorable!